Half of the day I'm exploring, or maybe more than half, I'm exploring the external environment. Mm-hmm. So I meet a lot of fintechs, a lot of universities, startups,
right.
so very many meetings and a lot of exploration, like I said. And the other half, I would say, it's more technical.
Okay.
We are doing internally in the lab a lot of prototypes. We are programming.
Right.
Mainly machine learning these days. I think the top management is very aware of our position, so they somehow enjoy our challenges, especially the CEO we have these days. And they have the strategic view, they know the forces around all those changes in the regulation even, or in the fintech market, for example. But what we usually do from the lab, so from like this external entity, we come up with new ways of using the technologies, which may provide us an advantage.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Evolve podcast. My name is Carlos Monteiro. I'm your host and founder of Evolve. On the Evolve podcast, you have an unique opportunity to listen to the conversations I have with experts and thought leaders from all over the globe, where we speak about digital transformation, management, future of work, and topics that are extremely relevant for the modern leader. Before we start, I'd like to ask you to tag me on LinkedIn or Instagram, and please let me know you're listening to Evolve. Now let's go to today's episode, and thank you so much for listening. I have the pleasure and honor of sitting down with Horia Velicu.
Right.
I have this tendency of misspelling the last names. So Horia Velicu. Horia, thanks very much for making time for this. We are sitting at the headquarters of Société Générale, which is, did I pronounce it correctly?
Société Générale.
Société Générale, which is a French bank,
yes,
present in 67 countries, 32 million customers worldwide. And we are here to talk with Horia about the innovations in the banking sector. I think it's fantastic. We see a lot happening in the in banking, which is a traditional industry. Before we get to talk more, I always start with the good old question, the big picture about you and about Société Générale.
Well, so I'm Horia. I'm running what is called an innovation lab for the bank in Romania. We are one of the top three, so universal bank, a whole range of products, more than 2 million clients. So a lot of fields to explore.
Okay, so 2 million clients just in Romania, right?
Yeah, more than that. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And can you tell me a bit of your background? How did you end up in innovation?
It's a good question. In my career, I was always mixing computer science and finance since I started like 20 years ago, and I've done a little bit of consulting, risk management, a lot of financial markets, investment banking, and then I made a break, and now this job appeared like 2 years ago, and it was somehow out of nowhere. It was new, it was interesting, so it got my attention, and I started.
So you kind of found a job within the corporation.
Yeah. They were just building this initiative across the world, I would say, and of course in Romania, and nobody knew, and even today there is no script for this job. There is no job description. It's pretty interesting, and So.
And what is your day-to-day like?
Yeah, another good question. Well, I would say half of the day I'm exploring, or maybe more than half, I'm exploring the external environment. So I meet a lot of fintechs, a lot of universities, startups, so very many meetings and a lot of exploration, like I said. And the other half, I would say, it's more technical.
Okay.
We are doing internally in the lab a lot of prototypes. We are programming, mainly machine learning these days.
Let's say that you have two major responsibilities, which is building an ecosystem,
right? Yes,
and then developing a new suite of initiatives or
right.
portfolio.
Yeah, yes, right.
For
proof of concepts, pilots, this kind of thing.
Okay, so when we look at the ecosystem and talking about Romania now, how is that, coming along? What's your...
Yeah, it's growing. So compared to 2 years ago, and I see it every day, or every year, this ecosystem is growing. So there are more and more hubs, more and more co-working places, a lot of incubators, business angels. So this investment scheme is growing. We now have also a unicorn. So
UiPath, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Nice.
And it's a ripple. So things are changing because of this.
So do you collaborate with UiPath?
Yes.
And
we are also testing their technologies.
All right. And can you comment a bit about how this test and maybe a lot of people don't know what UiPath is.
Yeah, sure. So they are one of the leaders in the RPA field in robotic process automation, and this is a very general technology but very useful, including banking, where there are a lot of routine processes and manual work, and we even launched last year. We did in the lab a working prototype which we put into production for a robot to automate some screen tasks linked to core banking, because banking has this kind of problem with legacy systems, very old system, COBOL based, not very open to interfaces or badges. So sometimes if you want to do more tasks at once, you cannot apply the usual fix, so you make the workaround with screen automation like UiPath. So.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So we spoke briefly about some of your responsibilities, like that encompasses AI, right? But before, I like to ask you, what are the directions that are coming top down, and also, because and this is a guess.
Yes.
The leadership sometimes they know what's going on in the banking. They see digital bankings appearing and so on. But a guy like you, also, I understand that your responsibility is to drive and eventually to argue a lot and convince them, why do we have to take some bold moves and in order to be more digital and...
it's true. I think the top management is very aware of our position, so they somehow enjoy our challenges, especially the CEO we have these days. And they have the strategic view, they know the forces around all those changes in the regulation even, or in the fintech market, for example. But what we usually do from the labs, or from this external entity, we come up with new ways of using the technologies, which may provide us an advantage. And this here is a lot of exploration, because sometimes nobody did it before, even other banks never did it, sometimes worldwide. So you have to take chances. And for example, we did last year, I think we did a blockchain experiment. This is too early for my point of view of technology, but we had to test it. We had to know how does it work, if it fits.
And blockchain technology, for example. Okay, then to complement my question. So you have a blockchain technology. Cool. What are the top initiatives that is coming from the top today in terms of innovation?
Yeah. Well, of course, they have their focus. So the focus today is, let's say, on some categories of clients, like small and medium enterprises, to find more value-added products and services for them. There are some focus on technologies like AI, for example, which we all know there's a lot of data with a lot of potential untapped, and this is a priority to grow. And the third one is the, let's say, business diversification, which is difficult to explain, but it's not exactly turning into a VC, but it's exploring new ways of doing business, maybe financing new startups or fintechs, or growing, partnering them. So this kind of
nice. When we look at the technology part, and especially in the field of AI, right? What type of AI or AIs are you looking into today?
Yeah, it's a good question. Here is a very broad range that you can try. Right now, this year and the last year, we are focused more on processes. So optimizing the way things are done in the bank, which of course at some point translates into a better quality of service for clients.
Okay.
But I'm not speaking something client facing, so directly.
Right.
To give you an example, we had last year a prototype which is almost done on optimization for allocation of the risk analysts. I know it sounds long, but in a nutshell, there is always a shortage of people in teams, like in risks, for example, who has to parse a lot of files and give decision yes or no for loans. And this allocation of those files is not optimized, and sometimes you have queues and clients get delayed and they leave. So you can have an AI to optimize this and estimate the complexity of files and make it very balanced. And this is one example. And it goes the same for sales department, which again is limited. You have a lot of prospects, thousands of prospects. I don't know, 10 people in sales. Who to call first, where to go. And again, it's a lot of room for optimization. So this is one area on people. Then there is the area of stocks, like you have cash stocks in ATMs or card stocks or all kinds of stocks which are not optimal again, and you have losses and delays and at the end of bad service sometimes. So this is again another area where an AI is very good at estimating.
Okay. I was looking at some of the investments, and one of the technologies I think was JP Morgan that they invested. It's on the digitization of documents, right? So do you have initiatives on that front as well?
Yes, we have. It started with the classic IDs, like what we call know your customer data. And it's not as simple as making an OCR on top of it, because OCR engines are not perfect and they make mistakes. And
what are OCR?
Optical character recognition.
To look
software which looks at the data printed and tries to extract it and make it digital. This is on the market, so you can buy or use such engines, but they are not perfect enough. They are not good enough. And in KYC, you need perfection. You cannot have a proximal address. You need the right address or the right security social service ID. And we use AI now these days to correct those mistakes from the OCR and to digitalize the IDs. And then we will go further with the payment orders, for example. So maybe on this area, not exactly on the classical documents like procedures or contracts. No, not there yet.
I will do a general question. How do you see banks? What is the bank of the future in your opinion, and how do you put the customer at the center of the experience?
Well, depends on the future, how long the future, how many years in the future.
The future you're building or that you're envisioning.
But no, it depends if we're talking 5 years, 10, 20 years. But I'm pretty sure at some point it will be very modular. It will be the same marketplace approach that you take this piece of service and you mix the way you want or the way you need.
Customization.
Yeah, but the client is doing this. So it's like Alexa skills, you buy an Alexa and then you put whatever you need. So I'm pretty sure the financial services will be the same way. So you assemble your final solution with pieces from various actors.
Yeah.
Some will be banks, some will be fintechs or the new wave or the GAFA,
Yeah.
But so I think the client will do this work, and banks will be one of the providers for the pieces. And in this fintech area, always the question, fintechs competing with banks or not. I believe there are some things that banks are doing it very well, and this will not migrate necessarily to fintechs. And I'm speaking about the heavy stuff, like all these regulations, all this safety, and all this trust that they provide. And this will not go anywhere because this is contrary to a fintech lean approach.
Yeah.
You cannot build a team of hundreds to comply with stuff. So banks will probably go more to the core. Providing all these safety of accounts. You can see this now is PSD2 approach. They are somewhere in the back, and the whole front is somehow left open to new actors who that very nice applications and very friendly. So I believe this will be the case. So banks doing heavy stuff, very serious and very well, and a lot of other actors more agile, coming from different environments, maybe social platforms doing.
I was listening
experience.
The other day to was a podcast with, I think it was the chief commercial office at Global at PayU and some guy at Money 2020, and they were talking about there's this all this conversation that fintechs against, and this is all rubbish nowadays, because the banks, as they were arguing, and I thought it made a lot of sense in that explanation, have to be understood as very solid distribution channels, right? Whereas the startups or fintechs, even more established, they are the accessories and utilities,
right,
providing that new layer for.
Right, and banks are also keeping this processing channel, because when you do payments, for example, you have to at some point go through an account, open at a bank, even if maybe it's behind your behind the scene, and this goes even more. It's more important for when you talk about assets, when you talk about equities, markets. You need a bank at some point in the flow. Of course, the nicer the front end it is, and the more integrated with your other experiences, then of course it's better. But and probably banks are not well equipped to do all these iterations and design thinking and all this kind of stuff. They are beginning to do this, but they are not the masters.
I want to ask you a final question. You mentioned blockchain, and it's not about Bitcoin or crypto.
No. It's just the technology.
But I would like to understand, in your perspective, what is the future of blockchain and the application that you see banks using it. How does blockchain?
This is difficult. I don't have a very strong opinion on that. Okay. It's still exploring from my point of view.
Or from your tests?
What we learned was that I think it would work on a private blockchain, so on a private node network,
Okay. Yeah.
So not a public, like everybody can download the software and becomes mining or stuff like this. So a private network with partners. We imagine this with other partners in the, not necessarily in the banking industry, including banking industry, but also other industries like energy, telecom, and so on. So you can have this common value network. Still trusted because of the partners and because of the technology itself and all the cryptography embedded there. And in terms of use cases, we tested it something on identity storage. Like the client puts his digital identity on this, and it uses many times. So it's one time checked and used 10 times. So around this, I'm not yet a fan about payments. But this is...
You mean transferring money and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. But it depends. There you have to be... in all aspects, you have to be very, very sure about the integrity of this. And this is why, again, I'm talking about the private network. Again, another aspect which might help it's about standardization. So when you have these smart contracts and you make all the partners act in a certain way, this reduces a lot of costs in terms of reconciliation and all this kind of stuff. And also here, I think there is a future, but it's too early. It's too early from a regulation point of view, mainly.
When you talk about the regulation, what is
EU? I mean.
Okay.
And even recently, I read that they are now pushing the industry to come up with the common standards and common approach, and maybe build the rules together.
Right.
Because it's a complex issue, and I don't think anybody alone knows the answer.
Yeah.
So, but until we have such regulation which enforce what happens on the blockchain, it's too early to use it as an environment for daily processes. So it's still experimental now. Yeah, it will come. Nice. I'm pretty sure too.
We are about to wrap up. 20 minutes. So my final question: what is next to when we look at the short-term horizon? Your challenges and opportunities. What's next for you? Let's say 1-3 years time span.
For the bank. For
the bank and
for the lab. My main in the present and the very short-term challenge is to mobilize the data inside the bank, so to make it useful, to get it out from the corner where it stays and put it in the hand of people who can develop very good AIs or insights or stuff like this. So data is, I think, one of the first. Second is still the ecosystem, because we are at the beginning, at least in Romania, to grow more startups, to partner with more fintechs, and to develop products together as much as possible. We started this trend. We are working also with clients in developing products. So it happens, but it's still at the beginning. And I think I call it a challenge because people are not yet used with this approach. And the third, it's probably also this diversification, which is maybe even longer term, because we've seen this trend, like telecom companies coming into banking industry and banking going into other industries, and I don't know exactly where we will go, but I'm pretty sure banking will diversify their activity.
Very nice. Yeah. Horia, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks. This episode was brought to you in collaboration with Horias Media. They are an audio and video entertaining company passionate about sharing incredible stories and conversations. For more information, visit horiasopmedia.com. It's HYSSOPMEDIA.com. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Evolve podcast with your host, Carlos Monteiro, myself. You know, it means a lot to me that you take your time and listen to the conversation I bring to life with some of our guests. I do my best to bring the best content I can on how society is evolving. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast on Google Play or iTunes, and feel free to reach out to me on Instagram or LinkedIn. I'm very, very active on both platforms, and I make sure to answer everyone on those platforms. No PAs, no automation. Once again, thank you so much, and stay tuned to our next episode. Thank you.